Alrighty, we are back. Your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 525, and we are recording live on Tuesday, July the 13th. Aubriana, how are you? What's happening?
I'm good. I'm at the beach, so I'm great actually. Just trying to disconnect. Yeah, besides this time disconnecting from work and all things digital, and just hanging out with my kids and family and enjoying some sun. I enjoyed a lot of sun yesterday, a little too much, so it's okay for me to be indoors for a little bit longer today.
There you go.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I got away for a little bit of a camping trip last week and for a few days, and then the rain came pouring in, so we ended it early because it was just like we were going to be living in a swamp for the next 2 days. So we're like, no, we're done. It was like thunder showers and like torrential downpours and floods everywhere, and I was like, no, not doing this. And it was like same forecast for the next 2 days, and I'm like, no, out. But we had a couple of really good days and some sunshine, and the beach there is nice where we were and whatnot. So that was good. And yeah, things are opening up here in Ontario. We're moving to our stage 3 on Friday, which means all the indoor dining and all the art galleries and museums and theme parks and everything can reopen. So we're finally there, and I'm starting my softball league this week, so that'll be fun to get out and start playing again. Yes, it's been a long time. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to get there because I have to say it's been like odd to see, that you can go in places without masks, or that, there's like things are so open, because we were here last year and even outside on the boardwalk and everywhere, everybody had to wear masks. And so it's just very different. And it just feels like you almost feel like you're doing something wrong after you've been doing that for so long, which is one thing, but two, it's just been nice. And I would say the other eye-opening thing for me so far, and I think some of my friends have felt the same way, is like, hey, I've actually enjoyed being inside with my family, and I don't need to be committing myself or over-committing myself to all these social things. So I think we've learned a lot coming out of this, but I'm excited for you guys to be able to get back to, catch up to where we are right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been consistently trending down and holding steady on the number of cases and things like that. So I think we're getting to a good place, and vaccines are, I think we're in Toronto. I think they're almost 80% of the population's now vaccinated. So, it's pretty good. So, alrighty. Well, we have a good show for you. 4 stories as per usual. And I'll let Aubriana start us off with a kind of a cool one, I guess, from a well-known brand.
Yeah, so I feel like this story and this service is actually meant for me. So thank you. This is from Hallmark, the greeting card company, right? So we've known Hallmark. They've been around for a long time. And I think there's always something special about getting a greeting card in the mail for your birthday, or, a personalized note, whether it's for your anniversary or something like that, right? And I think that Hallmark's obviously still counting on that, but they have this new service. It's called Sign and Send. And this is great because what I have the hardest time doing is that I do a good job at buying cards for people. The issue is actually like getting them in the mail and sending them. I don't know why, but I still have like Father's Day cards from, years ago that I'll find, that are thank you notes that I'll find. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I sent these, and I just find them in random places, and I'm the worst at sending. But Hallmark is now taking care of all of that. So I love this story. Basically, what you can do is you can go on to their website, you pick out a card, and you can actually handwrite your own message, and take a picture of it, upload it from your mobile phone, and they will deliver it and mail it for you. So they're taking care of the complicated part, at least for me. And I think that's really awesome because you can just do this anywhere. You can do it really quickly. If you're like, riding on the train, you can just take a moment to write something and snap a picture and then, send it over. And then they send it for you. And they're also doing a promotion where the first card is sent free. So in my mind, this is a beautiful combination of physical, digital, like that factor that you have about actually receiving something that is tangible that you can read, is great, but also the fact that they're just making this very friendly and easy to do from, the sender's perspective, I think is amazing, and I can't wait to try it out. I will definitely be using this service a lot. So I love this story. I think this is a great, this is a great, it's not anything like really mind blowing from a technology aspect, but it's just something that is so versatile and easy to use all year round. So I'm excited to try this out soon. Now I'm thinking like whose birthday or what's the next celebration I can do this for, because I'm ready to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. It's I think it's simple. It's easy for people to do. You just have to obviously you have to register and have an account with Hallmark in order to participate in this. I was looking at the site and kind of checking it out myself, and I'm like, yeah, this is great, except for the fact that I don't think it's actually available outside of the U.S. So like us Canadian people up here in Hallmark Canada world, I don't think we can take advantage of the service because from the postage and the mailing aspect of what they're providing and so on. So that's a bit of a downer, but otherwise it's phenomenal. I think I like that you can choose that card. You can write your own handwritten message and kind of take a photo of that and send it in, and they kind of print that right into the card and then mail it out for you. So it's like full turnkey, easy to go, and even doing the first postage part of it free. So that's kind of cool. Hallmark's an interesting company, like in my house, because like my wife and my kids and like right now it's I came home the other day and they were on the couch, like because they're home from school now, it's the summer, and they're watching Christmas in July, which is like Hallmark movies, like like the sappy girl meets boy, Hallmark movies, whatever. And so there's a whole sort of Christmas in July series of movies going on right now. And so yeah, like it's a brand that I think a lot of people know well, and have a high affinity for it. And so I love that they're able to kind of just say, hey, look, we're here to make your life even easier right now, and especially as probably people haven't been going out and buying cards in the same way that we haven't been going out to stores in general in COVID and buying things. And so walking into that card aisle at Walmart or Walgreens or wherever you get your cards, hasn't been happening probably at the same frequency. And so I think, sort of having this all sort of put together and having them take care of that mailing part of it, I think is huge. So I like it. I think it's a cool story. All right, on to our second story. So moving away across the pond now to Singapore, Moving Walls, which is a company we've talked about a few times on the show. They're a big player in the out-of-home advertising space and location-based marketing space. So they've been kind of experimenting with sort of the mashup of digital out-of-home or out-of-home in general and location-based sort of offers or mobile-based sort of connectivity to the content that you see there. And so the idea of what they're going for here is really to say, and I want to just use their actual words because I thought it was really cool. They said, when you see a billboard, they describe that as a mental snapshot of a product or service. That they're putting this picture in your mind of this brand. And so how do you then convert on that? How do you then get the consumer to take action on that? And so what they're doing is using their location intelligence and data platform. They're sort of measuring exposure to the out-of-home ads in terms of the number of people and devices that are coming in proximity of these things, and then tying that to a set of triggered app-based banners and offers and things like that are going on. But what's really cool is they've sort of built it in a way that based on the frequency of that exposure, the offers are slightly different. So it's not like just anybody who comes in contact with this out-of-home ad gets the same mobile experience. It's kind of tied to that frequency. And so they, one example they gave is they've been working with a food delivery app service, sort of like Uber Eats, if you will, in the Asian markets, Southeast Asia, and And what they do is they basically like say, okay, so if somebody's been exposed to the out of home ad 4 times or more than 4 times, 4 or more times, then they're assuming that the brand awareness of the food delivery app that's being promoted on the billboard is quite high, and then the content that they can share with them should be something that they can react to by prompting them to download the app or something like that. But if it's a person who's only been exposed, let's say 2 times or less, then they have a different call to action, right? And so I like that they're sort of thinking about, how often does that person's mobile device come in the path of that billboard and that out of home, and changing the sort of ad content accordingly. And they've been running this in 113 different locations in Malaysia, and had 281% viewership against their plan. So reached 103 million impressions. So quite a lot of success with this campaign. So I think it's really interesting. And again, for me, the uniqueness here is not the technology. It's that sort of that they're thinking about the frequency of exposure in the out of home space, and how you then sort of deliver something that's proportionally makes sense in the mobile ad targeting related to it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there's two things that I was thinking about. One, I think from a frequency and exposure capping, that's something that we talk a lot about in my industry now, with Samsung ads, and whether that's, advanced TV advertising, any digital advertising, that's something that's talked about a lot. And obviously different brands measure and cap their exposure in different ways based on probably what they know works for them and the efficacy thereof. But what I also like about this story is that I think that it's very true that when you say you see an advertisement, it is a quick like snapshot in your memory. And there's many times where I might see an ad on, I don't know, Instagram, for example, and I want to go back and find that, oh, I saw that, but I can't go back and see it again.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me because, one, I think that the advertisers are actually like missing out on something that consumers want. Like I saw something, maybe I didn't save it, or maybe it was in a story, so I wasn't really able to like quick follow or like just save it to a collection to go back to and refer to. And I think that that's a challenge. So I like the idea that they're just aggregating this data together, that they're using what's already being done, but in a little bit of a new way, kind of packaging it up and thinking about how can they reach those consumers again in the future to sort of measure that, or give them a different impression from a different medium, I think is really powerful as well. So I like this, like you said, technology wise, it's not anything that's super advanced, or they're maybe utilizing new data sets, but just how they're bringing things together, I think is really unique. And I think that they're thinking about this in terms of how we as consumers actually digest advertising and need and want to see it again in order for it to be effective. So I think it's a good, a good story.
All righty.
This one is like actually really interesting to me. And this is a combination of, a company that we talk about quite often, which is HERE. And we've had, lots of, I would say, interaction with them over the years through the LBMA. And now they're teaming up with another company, which is called Nexyad. So that's Nexyad, and they're pairing their platform with HERE's technology. So there's 3 main things that they're doing together, and this is pretty cool, right? So the 3 main areas that they're doing is they're leveraging onboard data in vehicles. They're looking at maximum speed recommendations for a specific vehicle at a specific time based on the data that they're gathering from the onboard data. And then they're creating this risk score for drivers and autonomous vehicles and shuttles of those nature. So basically, when you think about the HERE system, you've got the global navigation satellite system. So you've got the GPS that they're working with, then you've got the horizon data, and then the acceleration data. Then from Nexyad's platform, they're bringing in other things like advanced driving assistance systems, which is ADAS, which include like cameras, radar, LiDAR detectors, all of those different things, visibility, temperature, traffic data. So they're bringing all of those things together, and like every second they are generating 20 different like check-ins of data per vehicle. And so what it does is it really creates a very, very tailored data set to this specific vehicle based on all of these things that are informing informing that response, right? So this can help with saying like, hey, here's the maximum speed that this vehicle should be driving or should be allowed to drive if it's autonomous, right? Here's, some recommendations on the driving score, like you're not driving so great or you're driving really well. And this is really right now it's being used by Bright Mile in the UK, Montbleu in India, and by Mila in France. So this is coming from Paris and Amsterdam, really more applicable across the water, not here in North America yet. But I think this is really very, very cool. I love the idea of bridging all of these data sets together, that it is real-time data that's kind of affecting things. I like the idea of a driving score because there might even be additional factors, if you think about this, where this could go in the future, being like, okay, my teenager is driving. I would like to put a cap at the driving speed that they could, operate, or that I want to make sure that their driving score is influenced by their age, or maybe like what's appropriate from a risk factor for them versus somebody who's been driving for a long time, or maybe somebody who has like different vision, requirements. And so certain times of the day are more difficult for them. So I think there's a long way that this could go, but I love the fact that they're kind of building this out and assessing it on a vehicle by vehicle basis versus like just this, what works for one works for everybody. And I think this is super smart. So, we see a lot of things coming from here. We're seeing a lot happening in autonomous vehicles, whether that's more on the connectivity side or just the sensor side. So to me, this is more of like a data matchup and processing play. And I think that this is really powerful. And I'm excited about this one. What do you think?
I am too. I think the Safety Nex platform that Nexyad has, I think is quite different or unique in sort of addressing, that, like, to me, it's that scorecard piece, right? The last part that you're talking about, that is what I find fascinating. And I think for a couple of reasons. I think if you think about it from a insurance perspective and what this type of data could mean in terms of actuarial science and coming up with rates and coverage models and things like that, I think it's ripe for innovation, because there's so many new factors now that need to get weighed in as the vehicles become more autonomous and more electronic in how they operate. It's not just human factors anymore, right? And I think that needs to be reflected in the data science and the models and the actuarial pieces of what's going on. So I think huge implications on the insurance side. I think on the autonomous vehicle side itself, also, I think understanding speed and controlling that and recommendations around that. I think there's a big play there too, because even just this morning I was reading about Grubhub just announced a deal with the Yandex, which is a Russian company, and they're going to be doing autonomous vehicle deliveries, Grubhub deliveries on college campuses in the U.S. And I'm like, okay, so like, what's controlling, sort of putting the controls on the speed that those autonomous vehicles are rolling around campuses and what's happening there. And so I think there's a lot of implications for the autonomous vehicle space in general with data like this, in terms of what you can do and how that plays into operationally rolling these types of things out and being more efficient and causing hopefully less accidents and less fatalities and things like that we're starting to see now as autonomous vehicles become something that's more mainstream. So I think there's a lot of potential here as a safety platform for sure, in terms of what they're doing. So I like it too. All right, on our last story now, kind of sticking with data and satellites and GPS and all of that kind of stuff. A company we haven't talked about on the show for a long time, some years, in fact, I believe, is U-Blox. So that's just letter U hyphen B-L-O-X. This is a Swiss company, and they've launched a new platform called PointPerfect. I like the name, first of all, it's one word. And it's basically a location service that's aimed at sort of augmenting the GNSS data for autonomous vehicles. So everybody's going into this space now. All of these satellite players and GPS players that we've been talking about, whether that's HERE or guys like TomTom and Garmin and some of the sort of the old guard, if you will, of the industry, are all sort of finding new life right now, because I think, as we just said, the autonomous vehicle space is really picking up. And it's not just autonomous vehicles in, what we mean in the sense of self-driving cars, but this can be drones, this can be robots, this can be all sorts of different types of things, fleets that are rolling around, all sorts of different types of manifestations of that. So I think technology is definitely needed here to improve the accuracy, the measurement, the monitoring of what's going on there. So PointPerfect is the new service from U-Blox. They're going to deliver this service through mobile internet or L-band satellite signals, as well as on broadcast on large scale coverage in the US and Europe. And including coverage, they said, as many as 12 nautical miles off the coastline. So even for shipping, this has implications, right? And I've been seeing and reading about autonomous ships, dark ships, if you will, that are just floating around, moving cargo and things like that. So that's really interesting as well, to start to think about kind of, as you come, closer to the coastline, flipping over to an autonomous sort of navigation, to steer that into shore and things like that. It becomes really interesting. So, yeah, don't have a lot more to say about this. Again, primarily a European play, although it has US implications. That is U-Blox I'm talking about. And there's obviously, with all of this technology, there's obviously military applications as well, without going into too much of that. So I'm sure we're going to see, all sorts of announcements and partnerships with various military defense departments and others who want to leverage this, especially on the drone side of things. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that you covered pretty much all of it. I'm just hopeful that we continue to see these applications and this data and these, technology developments definitely used for the good and not for the power hungry. Although, we will see, right? Like there's always going to be some interesting things that happen, just like we see with facial recognition and other things that are happening all around us in different industries. So it's an exciting time to keep an eye out. But I think we also just have to keep in mind what's good for humanity as a whole, right? Like how can it be used for good, and then how do we make sure that we are not using this for for control seeking or power seeking industries.
Yeah. So all we can do is tell you about what's going on out there. We're not involved in that at all. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see the advances in the GNSS, satellite data accuracy and some of the things that are going on there, because so much of the conversation, I would say, over the last 5 to 8 years has been on, beacons and Wi-Fi and indoor and mobile location stuff. And now we're starting to see this wave of innovation and new services coming, sort of in the more traditional location sense of GPS and satellites and, some of the stuff that we've been talking about the last few weeks. So I'm excited because it'll all come together and mean, better location services, overall for the whole industry and for many different verticals. So anyways, that's our show for this week. 4 interesting stories. Thank you for listening and watching. We really appreciate your time. And we'll be back next week with yet another show. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And reach out to us on social media if you have story ideas. Give us some likes, some love on whatever platform you're consuming this. And we'll see you soon. Bye.